Alrighty, great. So we're recording. So welcome officially everyone to today's WorkSmart Live Home Office Hardware Solutions, which is part of our remote office series. I'm Dawn Church. I'm WorkSmart's events manager. We might have even been to 10 of these episodes in the remote office series at this point. But today we wanted to talk about home office hardware, especially now that like everything's starting to change again. You know, maybe some businesses are opening up, maybe some of you are going back into the office, and maybe not. We did an executive survey to our clients recently, and the amount of people who responded, either they're working from home permanently long-term, or they're 100% definitely thinking about working from home a lot more than they were pre-COVID, was fairly significant. I think Marissa can probably tell you exactly what it was, but I want to say it was like 80% or higher. So it's a pretty big number. So when we talk about working from home, it's important to consider your home office hardware, because if you're working from a laptop, because that's the thing that's mobile, it might not be super productive for you. You might want to think about some monitors, but you probably maybe want to still have some monitors at the office if you're still going to be working partly from the office, right? So we want to talk about a solution that gives you more mobility, so like laptops, but we also want to give you a solution that gives you a little bit more productivity, so like some extra monitors and stuff. So we're going to be talking about rethinking your home, your hardware strategy for your team members. Especially if right now they're using their own devices, because as we know, that's not as secure necessarily as having managed hardware. So we're going to go on a little bit of a product tour with our friends from Lenovo of their best devices for home offices. And we're also going to hear about some stuff around financing and leasing. So I can't do all this myself, of course, so we have some wonderful people on the webinar today to take us through all this. So first off, we have Stephen Miller, who is our partner rep from Lenovo. If you want to say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Stephen is super fun. I got to hear him talk at a tech talk that we actually did with our employees, where we went into Lenovo. We got to see, touch, and feel all the devices, and he gave a really great led a really great conversation around it. So I'm happy to have him back here to talk to all of you today. And then we also have Marissa Weedman back with us, who's WorkSmart's marketing manager.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello.
I love your princess wave.
I'd throw it in.
Marissa is WorkSmart's marketing manager. She has, as a former account manager, has worked with Lenovo quite a lot and worked with our clients quite a lot on figuring out the right hardware solutions for our clients for quite a long time. So thank you both for joining us. And another big thank you to our friends at the Durham Chamber of Commerce for coordinating with us to make this event open and available to all of our chamber members. So with all of that said, I'm going to pass this off to Stephen, and you can take it away.
Great, thank you. And if you let me be the host, I will share. And I'll get ready to share my screen, everybody, but I want to reiterate a couple of things. Please interact. This is effectively what I do for a living, and I'm averaging right now about 30 events like this a week. I'm not kidding you. And they're all along the same topic. And so I learn more when I do get questions. So you may be bashful, you may be shy, but please interact with us. It'd be great if you did. We'd love to have you join. And we all had a great conversation. We were actually, if I can be honest with you, a little bummed that the meeting started, because the three of us were having a really fun conversation about technology. We probably could have joined 15 minutes earlier and just chatted. So we like technology, we're geeks for it, and we'll talk as much. So I've got some time with you today, and I want to go through, hopefully I'm going to surprise you a bit about how we're going to talk about products. Before we even get into products, I want to talk about what's going on in the bigger technology trends. We do have an insight. Any given year, let me step back a second. At Lenovo, I'm a technologist. So any given year, I'm in front of more customers and more partners than any other Lenovo employee. Part of my job is to know technology, but more importantly, my job is to understand our industry and how those trends are affecting buying habits, selling habits, product portfolios, marketing of those products. So we're going to talk about some of those things that will help us guide exactly down our topics. And we want to think beyond right now. And for example, I'll say this several times, most every company, school, university, went through a reactionary phase. So we all reacted. Some had success, some had failures, and now we're all in a work from home environment. And so the reaction is almost over, basically, but pretty much everyone has taken a collective, and we're in a reflective or starting the proactive phase. So we're deciding a lot of things, and June is not our concern. We've already finished June. We've got June figured out. We're looking beyond, and so we'll talk a bit about that. And also I want to talk about our portfolio, but also the importance of partnerships. So if you didn't know, about 89% of Lenovo's North American business goes through our partner channel. So something like small business is 99%. So we are only successful because of our partners, and WorkSmart is great. And they've come to visit us and put on events like this. So what you have here is the leverage of a $50 billion tech leader. And you have the important close to home relationship with a partner that can really have a better business and partnership relationship with you. So we're going to talk about how hardware and software and solutions like leasing fit into that as a partnership. So we get started. Basically, this PowerPoint slide is the center of why we exist as a company. Can we solve problems of our customers and what is going on in our industry as it relates to IT? And I'm going to bounce around a bit here to kind of give you exactly what we're talking about, our topics for today. I want to start with workplace transformation. So before I saw a study in January that there'd been a 400% increase, this is of January, in work from home. Now that's nice. It didn't apply to me. I live on airplanes and hotel rooms, and I travel for a living. If you can see that many customers, it's travel for a living. So I don't count. But we've seen more people get a day home or 2 days home. But now workplace transformation is different. Now everyone has got the capability of working from home. And I've always heard that it takes 22 days to make a habit, right? If you want to eat better or exercise or do something, it's 22 days, and do it for 22 days and you'll have a habit. Well, we've all been working from home 60, 90 days. Well, we have a habit. So workplace is truly transformed. There's an area I'm not going to get into. How much real estate do you need? How many are going to work? How many people are never coming back and you're good with that? And it's a work from home. Do we need different commercial real estate? Do we need to remodel again? Is the term hoteling pretty much done? I mean, I know for one, I'm not going to go sit in a community beanbag chair so we can all chat about productivity. No, I want my desk and my chair. And so maybe we have to remodel. I'm not going to get into commercial real estate. Okay. Your lease in your building. In fact, I ran into a customer last week. I won't give the name of this city, but they had just bought 2 brand new buildings. They signed the dotted line and bought 2 new buildings in November. Now they realize that they don't even need those buildings, will never need those buildings, and their chance to sell them is very low because no one needs those buildings. So we're not going into that. We're going to talk about the IT side. Now this is really reflective over to category 1 here, which is employee satisfaction. This is devices. The question that I was asking before, right, when I would go into an office, maybe your office, or if I talk to any customer, how much of your KPIs, your business has changed to where you care about how the end user feels about their PCs? I'm old school IT. I came from the world of here's your new computer, shut up. Companies will buy 2 PCs and you could choose which one. You're going to get this one or that one. Well, we went through a world of bring your own, choose your own, and it came down to the consumerization of IT. Those are all buzzwords, but they were real things. So are employees delighted to work here? Wait a minute, you say your company's technology forward, but I have a 3-year-old computer that's not as good as the one I bought for my kid to go to 8th grade. I went to Best Buy and got a better computer than you're giving me to work with. So those feelings, well, now it's even different. As we switched for work from home, we have to think about, do our end users have the right keyboard and mouse? I mean, does their my mouse, honestly, last week, my mouse started randomly double clicking. Well, that's frustrating. I'm like, why did it open? I want to just look at the email, not expand that. So I realized my mouse was double clicking. Well, what if I can't just get another mouse? What if, so down to, is the device making me happy? Now it's even more so. Have we empowered our end users to feel productive, one, to feel part of a team, and to feel productive, and to feel like, wow, I have the setup. said that. What if my work from home environment, my work from home office is the kitchen table, but I have to do Excel spreadsheets. So I can't really have two 23-inch monitors on the kitchen table, but I still have to do spreadsheets. So, okay, sometimes it's how do we feel, and sometimes how productive do we get? So the right device for the right user and delighting and making those users productive. Well, security has been a big topic, and I wanted to make sure, I'm not a security expert, but it is one of my topics. And so I had this conversation just yesterday with inside of Lenovo, our security experts. So IT has always been about security. Big businesses are worried, small businesses are worried because cyber attacks are real, phishing attacks are real, denial of service, it shuts down our business. It's a big effect. It's banking account, it's personal information, etc. Now it's heightened because people working from home, let me run this by you. Maybe your company is this way. At Lenovo, we have to reset our password, our work password every 90 days. Ladies, do you have to do that? You can just shake your head. You have to reset your, right. So now, since you have to reset your work password every 90 days, if you're going to work from home, shouldn't you also have to reset your Wi-Fi router every 90 days? How many of you, your cameras are not on, have never reset your Wi-Fi password? Maybe some of you have the exact same one that came when you bought the router. You've never changed it. So now if IT or our company is going to give us permission to work from home, do they now have permission to tell us to reset your Wi-Fi password? Well, okay, Nest cameras, doorbell cameras, Alexa, iPads, smart TVs, all of these are hackable. All of these have ransomware attacks. All of these are sneaky ways in. So I could do the aluminum foil paper hat and scare you. I'll just give you this. You can actually embed inside of music on YouTube commands to Siri, and you don't even hear it. You can, via music, you can talk to Siri, and Siri doesn't know it. Like, I could mess with you. Okay, Siri, play Nickelback. Okay, so nobody wants that, but I just made some of your phones play Nickelback. Okay, okay, Alexa, play Nickelback. Okay, no one wants that. But so now, what if that's a security risk? Okay, so play Nickelback might be a security risk. So now a home IT is much of a concern as the four walls of business security. Now, the topic of digital transformation is giant, and this is way too big of an ocean to boil. But I want to take a small piece of digital transformation, which is modern IT. This is why we have partners. This is why the importance of why we're partner-based. Modern IT. How are you doing it? How are you doing remote break fix? How do you get an employee a new mouse? How are you going to give them a new PC? Are you going to how many times are you going to FedEx a computer? Normally, they would swing by the office, swing by the IT guy's office and get a new computer. Now you've got to ship it. Well, how expensive is FedEx? Right? Shipping's never free. You can't get a Groupon for FedEx. Okay, you pay FedEx full price every time. So can we ship directly from Lenovo to you? We need our partners. We need WorkSmart, right? WorkSmart can help us have a more efficient IT process and help us. Maybe it goes straight there and then we ship it once from them to, so it takes thought leadership. Digital transformation is modern IT for today's topic. And now disruptive technologies. This is again a bigger topic. This is 5G, this is AR, VR, this is Wi-Fi 6, which all the PCs now today we'll talk about have Wi-Fi 6, but some of these are still disruptive. And I'll give you one example. This environment in Zoom or Teams is good for 99% of us almost all the time. But what if you're a design engineer and you're used to having a CNC machine or a 3D printer and there's 5 people that sit around to do collaboration about designing this thing? Well, now you're remote and this camera's not good enough. So what if you need a VR headset so you can still look at this virtual clamp to design the next version of this clamp? So we still starting to need some of these disruptive technologies to support a work from home environment in a correct way. Let's be honest. Not every employee is going to want to rush back to work. So, and maybe they're a super valuable employee, right? And so here's the thing, I don't want to get into too deep of philosophical waters, but just Tuesday of last week, I saw the first story of a rash from wearing a face mask too much. So I'm a face mask wearer. When I'm in public, I have my face mask on. But what if Lenovo said I have to come back into the office, but because I'm in the office, I have to wear a face mask. But now because I have to wear a face mask, I start to get a rash. Well, I was just as productive at home. Why are you making me come in? So these are but I need a VR headset to do my engineering job. So you can see how all this is all then mixed together, right? So Lenovo did a study, and I'm going to talk about a couple other customer examples. In March, we did a study, and we found some interesting things. Between 16 and 45, or 45 and 40, 15 and 46, 61% of people in our survey, now this is 1,000 global customers, 61% of people feel as, if not more productive from home, okay? I worked with a company 2 weeks ago, that had done the same study internally, and their employees, now they're in the New York City to Philadelphia corridor. 90% of their employees feel as productive from home, 90% feel as. Company I was just working with, the one with the real estate, had just sent out their survey. So we have to ask employees how comfortable they are, where they feel. So Gartner came up with a study it published last Friday. Forget how we feel. How we feel matters, but how much productivity do we really have? So Gartner discovered that in North America, we've lost 1% productivity, 1. We might feel 90% productive, but we've only lost, that's a rounding error. We're down. Now we don't commute. Now we don't know, we're not wasting time in traffic. So companies, big mega companies, the Twitters of the world have said, hey, if your job to work from home, you never have to come back. Company I spoke with in that Philadelphia to Newark corridor, if given the choice, not only 16% of their employees ever want to come back in brick and mortar. If given the choice, only 16% ever want to come back. So it comes down to the right device for the right user. Can we empower and enable those users to have the right hardware set up to keep our company running, to keep them productive as employees, so they're fulfilled and providing benefit? So you see, it's all intertwined. So we all have to do our own study. By the way, the biggest trend is, by and large, no one expects more than 50% of their employees in the office anymore, more than 50% at any given time. That's the bigger trend. That's the number we're settling on. Half occupancy in offices. Well, part of that is not COVID. Part of that is I'm just as productive from home, more productive. It changes when I can take lunch. It changes my commute. It changes my work-life happiness, and I'm happier working here. So it's not all because of germs and concerns about social distancing. It's because we've discovered we like this, and we're productive like this for ourselves and our companies. So one of the things that comes in is security. And Lenovo has a suite of offerings called ThinkSmart. Now, ThinkSmart is not something that you can buy. ThinkSmart comes back to the way that we do business, because, by the way, I won't bore you with the stats, but we are globally the world's #1 PC vendor. That means every quarter we sell more computers than Dell or HP or anybody else. We're also the #1 business computer. Consumer plays into that, but where we really focus is on business computing. That's what we're here today to talk about. They're a different PC. They have different concerns. Well, so we feel if you're going to do business on our computer, we have the obligation to make it as secure as absolutely possible. It's business processes, supply chain, it's hardware and software partners. Okay, so that's what ThinkSmart is. ThinkShield is all of those categories. I'll give you one example. Now, I'm from North Carolina, and I went to North Carolina State, but I'm a Michael Jordan fan. I believe that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. Okay, maybe you're younger and you think LeBron is. That's cool, it's subjective. Maybe you're older, you think Bill Russell is. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, especially before he changed his name, might be the second greatest of all time. Okay, subjective. But when Lenovo says we have the world's most secure supply chain, we have to be very careful. That's not subjective. All right. First, before that, as of last week, Gartner said that we have the 15th best supply chain on the planet. Now, this calls in Apple and Amazon and Unilever and InBev and everyone that sells things, Walmart. Of all of the companies, we have the 15th best supply chain on the planet. Now we have the most secure supply chain. That means if you're going to sell to us, we want to check up on you. What is your hiring and firing policies? What is your disgruntled employee policy? How is your supply chain? Is it clean? Are you selling us what you say you're selling us and nothing more, nothing less? So we audit those that sell to us. Now, when we manufacture, we have 36 manufacturing plants in 16 countries. And in fact, if it says Think on it, so ThinkPad, ThinkCenter, ThinkStation, and it has intelligence in it, a processor, a memory, a drive, it is designed by a Lenovo employee. It is made by a Lenovo employee in a Lenovo-owned facility. In fact, there's 12 of those globally. The closest one to us is either Whitsett, North Carolina, or down in Monterrey, Mexico. So That's where, by the way, if you get a server or a desktop from Lenovo, it's made in Monterrey, Mexico, basically because they're heavy. Why do we have 16 countries that have these manufacturing plants? Shipping is expensive. And if we can make it closer to our customers, it's better, right? Then it's Lenovo owned, so we can control the environment. Then we use artificial intelligence on the assembly line to make sure that we know exactly what we're making. So we have photography and AI to make sure that system boards and all the parts are exactly what, nothing more or nothing less. Then we put tape on it. And by the way, we ship over 4 things per second. Lenovo, to get to 50 billion in revenue, ships over 4 things every second. When we put tape on it, we've actually hired Intel to audit us from there. So if we sell it directly to a customer, if we're selling it to Best Buy, if it's being sold through a partner like we're talking about today, we have Intel track it all the way to there to make sure it's not messed with in transit. That is what it takes to have the world's most secure supply chain. On top of that, security, it's built in. We have a self-healing BIOS, the notebook, all ThinkPads in our category, the desktops have a self-healing BIOS. If you'll forgive me the Pink Floyd reference, okay? There's someone in my head, but it's not me. Our BIOS is aware of cyber attacks. And if there's a BIOS attack from a cyber attack, it can go, there's something in my BIOS that's not me. I'm going to go back to a last known good, and I'm going to sandbox that action until IT can figure it out. So an artificial intelligence self-healing BIOS. Then there's fingerprint on chip, so it can't be hacked. There's cameras for Windows Hello and multi-factor authentication. There's all kinds of things we do at the hardware level that not every vendor takes us seriously. And those are some of the differences about Lenovo, some of the differentiation. Then it's partners. Like I could do an hour on security. I'm going to give you just one example of a partnership. SentinelOne. Okay, so they're a new age antivirus. So they're like old school antivirus. So you guys remember when the city of Atlanta went down for 18 days? You remember the cyber attack on the city of Atlanta? 17 or 18 days, they were shut down. That ransomware was called SamSam, okay? And then right after that, there was one that took down Europe and took down FedEx in Europe. That was called Petya, not Petya. Well, so those have signatures, and antivirus knows how those work. So SentinelOne does that. But SentinelOne also uses artificial intelligence. So if you click on a phishing email or something bad happens to your PC, it takes about 20 seconds for ransomware to take over and start 20 seconds. From a click on a phishing email, 20 seconds. SentinelOne lives in there, and it looks at things like PowerShells and other business processes of Windows to make sure that nothing is going weird. So it can sandbox any PowerShell or Windows application or Windows function until IT can look at it and stop it from affecting the computer. So again, artificial intelligence. Now they have another product that sits on the PC, but it looks at the home network. How about the doorbell camera, the router, the smart TV? Have those been compromised, and are they affecting the home network because they're trying to get to the work network for identity theft? This is a growing concern, so it's our responsibility to bring in our own products or partners to help our customers solve their own IT security needs. That's ThinkShield. Now we get into modern IT, and we get into digital transformation. So this is a 3-leg stool. This is important. Believe it or not, I get compliments on this PowerPoint slide. Whoever compliments a PowerPoint slide, right? Well, I get compliments. Sadly, I didn't create it. Because I'm getting compliments from CTOs of Fortune 100 companies. I'm not kidding you. Because this is all the touch points that can cost a company money, all the places where a company has to touch a PC to get it to an end user. Well, this is a 3-legged stool. We need you, our customers, to understand where you can help, where you need help. We need a business partner. Quite honestly, some of these are done better by our partners than they are by us. We can do all of this, but some of it, here's the secret, some of it's done better by our partners than us. And some of it, we can do, like Premier Support or Keep Your Drive or Accidental Damage Protection. Or this is what Lenovo has to do, extended warranties. This is our role in this. And then we have to help our partners, like leasing. Leasing or device as a service is way more than leasing. But device as a service is basically a subscription to a PC. Maybe you pay, I'm making this up, I'm not in sales, unlike Marissa, I'm in marketing, so don't trust me on prices. $40 a month, every month, and you get a PC. Well, maybe that's just, you don't care what PC it is. It gets refreshed naturally. You subscribe to a PC. Leasing is similar. What makes Lenovo special here is we have our own financial organization, Lenovo Financial Services. We're not trying to make money on the money. All right. Now, WorkSmart doesn't have to use our financial organization. Their job is to see what is the best financing option for you, right? Maybe you want to use Lenovo Financial. Maybe you don't. If you want to look at leasing as a way to do business, it's our job as a partnership between us, WorkSmart, and you to figure out what's best for you. Maybe you want asset tagging. Maybe you want reclamation. Well, look, here's the thing. Those are some of the things that WorkSmart does a little better, that maybe they do better than us. E-cycling, right? To make sure your PC has been disposed of right and recycled the right way. There's metals and materials, right? So some things are Lenovo's responsibilities. Some things WorkSmart's responsibilities, but it's about learning which is the best for you. There's where modern IT, zero-touch deployment, the tools, the policies, buying the right device. This is a partnership, okay? Now, let's talk about hardware for a few moments. Here's the thing. It's back to basic blocking and tackling. We have to think about all of our users differently. We have to go, they have all the stuff they need. Maybe it's a new headset. This is the first time, okay, ladies don't have a headset on. Lots of times our moderators will have a headset on. Well, if you're working from home, I just heard my dog bark. I don't want you guys to hear my dog bark. So I should be on a headphone. Well, maybe it's a work from home environment that's a small house and there's 3 kids, but that employee needs the privacy. Have we asked our employees, do they need a headset? And one that the company provides. We also have a new product there called the ThinkSmart View. And if I can be honest, we introduced this at CES. So at CES, we did a couple of cool things. We introduced the world's first folding PC. So the X1 Fold, you can go and Google Lenovo X1 Fold. It's a 13-inch Windows 10 Core i7 PC that folds in half. The screen folds in half. It's amazing. We also introduced the ThinkSmart View. In January, it was kind of boring. If I can be honest with you, it was executive jewelry. Now it is probably our hottest and most important piece of hardware. It went from executive jewelry to something everyone needs. What it is, it's an 8-inch screen that is Teams. Now I know we're in Zoom right now. I'm gonna talk about the future of that quickly, but it does Teams. It's your calendar, it's touchscreen, it's Bluetooth for headphones and microphone. It has a micro and a speaker. You can have a headset with Bluetooth. You log into your Wi-Fi, you log into your Microsoft account. It's your calendar, it's your Teams. Now, Microsoft, they didn't know they needed to do this. In November, at their event called Ignite, they talked about what if you could log into Zoom, to WebEx, BlueJean, all these other UCs straight from Teams. Well, that was November. They need it more than ever now, so we're hoping that Microsoft will work and make that happen. But this device, the ThinkSmart View, is the hottest product inside of Lenovo. I can't tell you how hot it is. Maybe it's something like this, my 14-inch. So this is an M14 monitor. This is down to the right device for the right user. What if my kitchen table is my home office, right? So here's a USB-C, 1 pound. I don't know prices, but this is $250. So this is a second monitor from the sofa, the couch, from Starbucks. Maybe it's the only second monitor your users could have because it's a kitchen table as their office, right? So you see all this stuff on the screen, right? So let's just make sure we're helping our end users be productive. Now let's take a few minutes and talk about hardware. So let's go through our portfolio. I'm not going to deep dive unless you have questions, but I'm going to give you some examples, right? So first off, here's some of the things we did this year across the board. I mentioned the X1 Fold, the world's first foldable PC. We completely redesigned our L series. You'll see what that is just in a moment. Our speakers and microphones got better. Our screens got brighter. Now this is before we made these products in 2019 to introduce them in 2020, and they're all shipping right now. And some are very topical. We now have keys in the F9, F10, F11 area where you can hang up and connect to any UC, whether it's Zoom or Teams. Why not, if I know I'm going to hang up, the ladies and I were talking about Zoom hangs up in a weird place, and Marissa waits for somebody else to hang up, and Teams hangs up here, and WebEx hangs up over here. How about F11 hangs up? All right, so that's the UC keys and the F key. Better microphones for what we're doing right now, better speakers. And so Wi-Fi 6, is 802.11 for you folks that speak that, Wi-Fi 6 across every product this year. 5G, when it becomes more available, we'll have 5G models this year. All right, so let's look at our ThinkPad commercial portfolio. So we work in a good, better, best. Now, here's why this matters. So the L series this year was completely redone. Every single mechanical, every single PC is refreshed. The most important product on the page, honestly, is the L13 Yoga. Obviously, the trends in notebooks are thinner and lighter. That's like a no-brainer. Of course, thinner and lighter is in style, right? The other trends are multi-mode and touchscreen. So if you weren't buying multi-mode or touchscreen, the bigger trend is you probably will be soon. Well, the challenge is multi-mode and touchscreen cost more. So why the L13 Yoga is the most important PC on the slide is that it's typically priced right around where the T series, our best seller, Lenovo's lights are on because of the T series, the 14-inch T series. But you could get a touchscreen Yoga style for about the same price and delight your end users if they really want that and budget is a concern. Also across the board, by the way, we have AMD, the same naming for our products. We've almost completely doubled our portfolio by adding AMD. I want to be careful. Are we, ladies, are we sponsored by Intel today? I don't think, we're not sponsored by Intel, are we? Okay, good. So I can be a little more honest. Intel has messed us up, all of us. Dell, HP, Lenovo, Acer, Asus, everybody. The last couple of years, they've not been making enough processors. Supply has been a challenge. It's been a hassle. We've not had enough supply. And they tell us that they fixed it now, and the products that can ship today won't have those concerns. But you know what? AMD with the Ryzen processor is just as fast, just as secure, just as good a battery life. So we put AMD almost completely throughout our portfolio. I believe in business continuity. I believe that you should look at AMD just as serious. We trust AMD as much. We like AMD as much. You should trust and like AMD just as much. I believe in business continuity. So you see AMD all over our portfolio. You'll spend a lot of time, now let me talk about our naming. So T14, that used to be the T490 or the T480 or the T470. We ran out of numbers. So now the T or the L or the X is the series. The number is the size. And then the S, we'll get into that. So for example, T15, 15-inch. All right, 2021, it will still be the T15. We're not going to call it the T16, but we'll be with the T14 for a long, long, long time now. It'll get a generation. There are details you need to be aware of, like the T14 versus the T14S. Do you need RJ45? Do you need Ethernet? Well, you need the T14. The T14S is thinner and lighter, sub 3 pounds. It won't have that. Do you ever need to add memory? So these are kind of things that a sales team has to work with you on. Get the right device, the right amount of memory, devices you can add memory to. The executive carry, our top end is the X1. I have an X1 Carbon, that's what I work on, or the X1 Yoga. These are going to be our cutting edge. These are going to be a little bit more expensive. They're designed to be expensive. I'm going to look at our two ladies over here again. Ladies, do either of you have a Prada or a Yves Saint Laurent or a Christian Dior bag that costs more than a Joe average one at Target?
No.
Yeah, no.
Marissa's nodding her head though.
All right. Now, we have this, I do. I'm a shoe guy and I'm a bicycle guy. I have shoes that cost way more than they need to because of the brand, okay? We actually like that. We need, Marissa, you need this purse. Is it a Christian Dior? Is it Yves Saint Laurent? Is it a Prada?
It's usually Coach.
It's usually a Coach. Is it any better really at carrying things than the one that you could have got at TJ Maxx? No, but it looks better and it has a brand. Here's the thing, folks. We care. There's nothing wrong with that. We care about the higher brand. All right. That's why I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think every household has a BMW. I think it's a law. We like those higher brands. Okay. So X1 is that. It's that elite brand. It better, faster, stronger technology, more cutting edge, but that's the good, better, best. You're probably going to spend most of your time in the T series. You might go down to L when the price is slightly more important, or you might go up to the X1 when, you know, you want something flashy and thinner and lighter, and yes. Keep in mind also desktop is important business. Desktop is actually not going away in any way, shape, or form. For example, the Tiny, the world's best-selling form factor of desktop, created by Lenovo. Also, we introduced this year the Nano. This is the world's thinnest and lightest and smallest Windows 10 Core IPC. If you're doing an IoT project or a smart IoT project, we have the Nano IoT and the Nano. So this is, if desktop power is a concern, this is 65% less power than the average desktop. So desktop is still active. It's the right device for the right situation. When you need more horsepower, and the big buzzwords are data scientists, a lot more companies of all sizes are doing more data analytics and have at least a data scientist around. So if you need more horsepower, more graphics, different processors, more memory, that's a workstation class PC, and that's our ThinkStation, okay? We also mentioned monitors. If you saw the sales numbers in the last 3 months, the monitor sales have skyrocketed because people need multiple monitors at home. So keep in mind, again, don't trust me on pricing. If you need something that costs less than $100 and pictures come on, that's the D series. The plastic mount is to the thing, you can't take it off. Maybe you need VESA mount, maybe you need tilt swivel. You might need something like the T or the S series. Maybe you need like the M14 like I showed. Maybe if you're doing graphic design, you need something like the P series because it can be 4K. It can be color calibrated. That means every one ever made is the exact same color calibration. So that's the P series. Do you need a docking monitor? Do you need a camera or microphones in your monitor? We have a huge, huge portfolio of monitors from 34-inch curved, 44-inch curved, down to 23, 14-inch mobile. This is about finding the right devices for you for each situation, okay? And then finally, I'm done. And before, ladies, don't start talking yet, all right? Here's the thing. It's not just about this, okay? I've got a lot going on. Lenovo has a lot going on. This is about working with WorkSmart to make sure that you relook at IT. Do you want to change your financing? Do you want to change your business processes to do more than modern IT? Do you want the right device for the right user? I always make apologies. If I was talking to the WorkSmart salespeople, I would say, I apologize. We sell too many things. It's complicated. We have a lot of stuff, right? So it takes teamwork to make sure that we're helping you get the right devices, right? There's an event series to help make sure we keep, we're the 11th in your event series, right? I'm flattered to be the 11th in the event series. This is a partner doing everything they can to help customers buy the right devices, find the right balance of work from home and work from the office and the right devices. So on behalf of Lenovo, thank you for joining us today for WorkSmart, excuse me, because we have ThinkSmart and you guys are WorkSmart. I get confused. So thank you guys for having me today. I appreciate you being a part of the Lenovo family. And that I'm Stephen Meller. So I'm checking out. Ladies, it's back to you.
Well, we actually have quite a few questions. So I would love if you could, Stephen, go back to the device slide.
You want which device slide?
So the one with headsets and mice,
right here,
all the things.
Okay.
Kind of at the beginning. So we had a question that came in about, and I'd love to kind of go into devices just a little bit more in general. So one of the questions was, what advice do you have for getting people the right accessories? So maybe things like headsets. Can you kind of go into the accessories that are available for productivity?
I'll give you the full range. Okay, so do you need a docking station? Because I'm using a dock here because I have a home office. I have multiple monitors. I still do go into the office some. I do go down to the living room to work. So it's easier for me to have one plug. I just come back and I plug in one plug and I'm back in my dock. So you have to decide when you sort about accessories, you have to think about the work style of the individual. They're very individualized. Okay. So some teams may have the same sort of needs, but accessories are individualized. Do you have a home office where you have multiple monitors? Have we provided you a dock to link all those together? Do you have a loud environment where you need a business level, and it makes a difference? You need a gaming level or a business level headset. Yes, game your stuff is really, really good, by the way. So is individualized, and you have to, this is one of the times where we really have to listen to our individual end users. And here's the thing, they will lie to you and they will want the best of everything. So it takes some honesty. What do they really need? What do they really want? But really it's down to an individual question. Do they need a better speaker? So maybe you have an old PC and the speakers in it aren't loud enough. Okay, so maybe they need a Bluetooth speaker or some speakers to plug in. So you don't need to buy them another PC yet. Their PC's fine, but we hear words like tinny and too quiet, and it just won't get loud enough. Like tinny, T-I-N-Y, that's the word. It's anyway. Maybe they need a Bluetooth speaker or some plug-in speakers. So really, it's an individual concept. My suggestion would be make a list of what you're willing to buy and put this out and say, employees, which would be your wish list. So you can't buy everything, but make a list of what you think people would need and see what people say they need for their individual situation. Maybe it's a new camera, maybe it's a backpack, I don't know, but certainly top hitters are headsets, monitors, docking stations, and speakers and productivity centers.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. You see, there's a big answer to that good question.
And we've seen some clients do it a couple of different ways where they've allocated, let's say, a budget. They'll help give the options in terms of the machine, and then when it comes to accessories, because it is such a personalized decision, that they'll give a budget and a recommended list of options, or maybe it's a form and they can choose which options they want from there, so that you are, to Stephen's point, giving them that feel that they're buying into the tools that are going to make them most productive, because we all know we work differently. So there's lots of different ways to get creative there.
I mean, it's even down to, so look, I have both a gaming mouse and a regular 2-button, I don't even know what this costs, $5, and a gaming mouse that's like $70. But if maybe I don't want to move my arm as much because it's got 9 buttons, I barely have to move my arm. I can do everything with, so it's down to how do people like to work, and again, the budget of what you're willing to spend. Maybe a basic $5 mouse is enough. Maybe they need a more complicated mouse.
So we have a couple other questions around devices specifically, and then I've got a bunch of questions around leasing and financing. So
okay,
I'm gonna address those device questions real quick, and then we'll get to these leasing and financing questions. But so one question that came in was, what security does Lenovo offer that's unique? And I'm remembering when I went into the showroom, and there were some really cool things about like security features, specifically with the camera, which I know is so important for people right now, especially because all of our meetings are on video. But maybe are there like some device-specific security features that you could touch on?
Sure. So one of the things we've done, we've had for, I think it's our 4th year, you talked about the camera. We have a think shutter. So how many of you have a camera in the lid of your PC, but you have a Post-it note that you put over it, or you put a piece of black tape over it, or you've got something at a trade show? So we put in a thing called the think shutter. So one of the questions that come in, see if I can tell this story quick, that why is the bezel on a ThinkPad bigger than a consumer PC? We make consumer PCs with 0 bezels and curved screens, but a ThinkPad actually has multiple cameras. So you can get in with an IR camera for Windows Hello, for multi-factor authentication. That's not special to Lenovo. What we did though was we put a little shutter. Now this, for HIPAA compliance, is necessary. So if you have anything in the healthcare industry, they have to be able to physically turn off the camera. So the think shutter works for that. Maybe it's just for privacy. Also, here's another exclusive. So we have privacy guards. So if you want to turn on, and if you're buying 3M privacy filters, now you can buy a PC where that's in. So you do Control D and it turns on the privacy guard. Now Lenovo, other vendors have that. Here's what Lenovo does differently. I forget what the real name is called, but I call it creeper alert. You know, like when you're driving your car and you can see someone, your rearview mirror blinks because someone's in your blind spot. So on a ThinkPad, we'll actually tell you if someone's creeping over your shoulder. So if your camera sees that someone's looking over your shoulder, you'll get a blink on that side of the screen to let you know someone's looking over your shoulder. Also, the 2020 this year, when you look away, it will blur your screen. So if it doesn't see both of your eyeballs, it will blur your screen, okay? So that's unique. Those things are unique to Lenovo. Also our supply chain, also our fascination with making BIOS artificial intelligence. Did I mention supply chain, world's most secure supply chain? And so it's down to tamper resistance, and it's all the things we do from business processes down to geeky things like like artificial intelligence BIOS. A lot of differentiation there.
Yeah, when we came in and we did the in-person product tour, there was so many cool things around security that are built into Lenovo's devices, which is really cool and awesome. So If you have more questions specific to devices, definitely send them, but I want to make sure that we get to these questions around leasing. So I'm going to actually start off with some questions towards Marissa. So internally with WorkSmart, I have a couple of different questions here. So when we talk about leasing, how much do you pay up front?
That's a good question. And that is an important question when you're asking whomever it is, whether it's a conversation with us or Lenovo or your leasing company, is to ask that question up front. One of the best benefits of leasing is that you typically don't have an upfront payment. So if you're thinking about an expense in terms of capital expenditure, that initial kind of outlay of money to invest is that huge upfront cost. And that can be a hurdle for some companies, especially if it's a major upgrade like Windows 7 to Windows 10, or Windows XP to Windows 7. Leasing allows you to purchase that equipment in a way so it becomes an operating expense, even though you don't, you're going to end up paying more over time for the hardware. So it's definitely a cost savings, but it depends on, when it comes down into what does your organization prefer, a capital expense versus an operation expense? How does, what is your monthly recurring revenue into the organization look like? Some other questions to think about for leasing is, what is your temperance for buying new equipment and upgrading and having the latest bells and whistles? So that, and I kind of see that there's another question here about the high level benefit of leasing equipment. And so rather than buying outright, and one of those big things is that reduction of the initial capital expense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as part of this same question that Marissa's referring to, I'm going to pass this question over to Stephen. It says, does Lenovo offer any nonprofit discounts or other offer company scholarships, etc.?
We have a lot going on in that area. Yes, it's complicated. As any philanthropic, I'm going to use the wrong word, any company of our size, we do try. I know that we're involved, and even recently with North Carolina, and employees down to the base level employees volunteering to help take routers, Wi-Fi routers out to homes that didn't have them from work from home. So not only did they not have a PC for work from home, but they didn't have a router. They didn't have Wi-Fi in their house. So Lenovo employees volunteered. Up on the sales side, there's lots of times from our PR. In fact, our PR lady is named Libby. And Libby all the time runs a lot of, whether it's for veterans with the USO or with Habitat for Humanity or for nonprofits. There's a lot going on as Lenovo really our headquarters are here in North Carolina, and we really try to think locally. And so there's always a lot going on in combination with Lenovo, whether it's as simple as a blood drive or as complicated as a buying plan. But so yeah, ask on specifics, get back with your Lenovo team and back with WorkSmart. I bet not always every month would be something that applies to you, but there's a lot going on at Lenovo in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. All right. So also on leasing, and this is a question, I guess for either of you, but probably start with Marissa. What happens if I stop using the equipment that I'm leasing?
It's another good question to ask whom you are essentially interviewing to become your leasing partner, because some companies may have the option to kind of change the leasing structure, but typically when you, depending on the way that your lease is set up, if you stop using the equipment, you still have to pay for it, because it is not that, when you have that upfront purchase, it's not a clean transaction where it's payment, you own it outright, you're still making the payments on it. And so if, maybe there are some flexible policies within the leasing company that allows you to kind of change the lease structure, but it definitely will vary upon your lender.
And that's spot on. It really depends on when you negotiate your terms, because what if you want to keep PCs longer? Well, no, this has to come back. This is end of lease for this PC. Or what if, let's call it 100 computers. You've got employees that lose things and you're only going to return 90. Well, you don't want too much of a penalty for not returning that PC at the end of the lease. So maybe you want to say, hey, we have some flexibility in how many we're going to return. Well, again, as Marissa said, maybe your company grows or shrinks based on economic demands or other business factors. So make sure that when you go in and set the lease, you work with someone. I'm happy biased. That's who I'm paid by. But for example, Lenovo Services, since we have our own financing arm, we don't have to make money on the money. We want to make sure that we go out of our way to set the terms to where it's about the right device for the right situation. But again, as Marissa said, it's the agreement. Make sure that you have a dynamic agreement and you have that flexibility if you think your business might need it.
So we have one other question that came in about leasing. If leasing is a warranty included with the device, and I apologize if I'm not saying this correctly, if you want to chat me and clarify, I can certainly do that. So it says, if leasing is a warranty included with the device, or is that something that we would need to purchase separately?
Well, I know on the Lenovo side, it's going to be built in. We're going to be leasing brand new PC, so that it's going to carry the warranty that the PC would come with. So then it gets down to, is WorkSmart going to work on the PC? Are you a self-maintainer? Do you want to work? Because at Lenovo, there are some things that we call them customer replaceable things. You can do the work yourself, and it's quite okay. And there are other things like changing a system board or changing the screen that requires an authorized repair person. So it really depends on that level, but the warranty is going to be what the warranty would be for that device. Now you can, like for at Lenovo, get Premier support, which is extra level of support on top of that, which for monitors includes a hot swap. So if your monitors, you would be like, okay, my monitor's dead. Okay, we're going to overnight, if you do it before 3 o'clock, you'll get one the next day. And then you have a month to return the broken monitor. So there's a lot of complexity in lease, but usually the lease, a lot of complexity in warranty, a lot of availability to cater to your needs, but that's included inside, but there are upgrades. There's always an upgrade.
And that actually brings up a good point when you're thinking about what device makes the most sense. There are different warranty options. There's going to be a base or what comes standard with the machine versus what can be added on. And depending on the device that you choose and the intention of the device can really kind of formulate how you make that decision on your warranty. Things like accidental damage protection is obviously more important as the machine is mobile. The more mobile it becomes, the more likely it is to be broken in transit. And so, Stephen, can you give us just like a high-level overview of some of those like key components to warranty?
Oh my God, you just blew my mind, Marissa. Wow. Okay, accidental damage protection. Every vendor, my competition also has that. Ours, but some of them are worded to where it's broken once, right? So accidental damage protection is you break it once. That's it, okay? Lenovo, you break it once, it's covered the second time. Maybe the first time you broke it, the keyboard, the second time you break the screen. So not all warranties are the same, even though the verbiage may sound the same. So accidental damage protection, again, it's pennies on the dollar. On average, it costs about $400 to replace a piece of glass, okay, out of warranty or accidental damage. If you drop it and break it, it's kind of on you, right? And so, but if you have accidental damage protection and it's obviously broken, then I don't know. I mean, was it 50 bucks or I don't know what it costs, but it's way less. So what if you break it? If you accidentally drop it in a swimming pool, covered, right? So we know that people do bad things. My statement here is nobody ever washes a rental car, right? So if you take it to them dirty. So if you buy computers for your end users, they didn't pay for that computer and they're going to treat it differently than if they paid their own money. So you might need to invest your own money for your own protection on that. Accidental damage protection is almost always a given. We have a phenomenal reliability rate, but hey, dropping it from 4 feet breaks it sometimes, right? So that's, and keep your drive. I think you also mentioned keep your drive. So some things, by the way, a drive is rarely bad. They almost never go bad. So if you ever think your drive is dead, there's a 90% chance you're wrong. Now, we're not going to argue with you. We'll swap it out, but here's the side. We're going to want that drive back because we're going to refurb it and use it again because the drive was fine, okay? So Now, if you pay for keep your drive, maybe it's legal. Maybe you have a legal department and that drive has to stay with you forever for legal reasons or just because you want to keep it. Pennies on the dollar, you don't have to replace, you don't have to send us that drive back. Okay, you get to keep your drive. It makes sense. All right. And even for security reasons, believe it or not, this one blows my mind. On the server side, there's keep your memory because data has been through it. You can pay to keep the memory. That amazes me that because information went through the memory, it can be stolen by the cyber criminals. So security plays in to keep your drive a lot as well as cost savings.
So this was in a slide from our point of view about halfway through the presentation, where we kind of talked about like some of the benefits of managed hardware from through WorkSmart. And one of those was e-recycling. So Marissa, do you want to kind of touch on that and maybe some of the other things that we're kind of right at the end of time, but on the note of drives and making sure that they're like processed properly, this is probably a good thing to touch on because it's really important, especially when we're talking about a hardware strategy.
It really is. You know, the deployment's important, the security while you're using it is important, but then what happens to when it's done? And so WorkSmart doesn't have its own e-cycling program because we are really good at knowing what we're good at and then finding people who are good at what we don't specialize in. So we have several different partners that we work with to coordinate pickups. But one of the things that's really important when you're getting rid of the hardware is knowing that you are destroying anything that could link back to your organization. And so finding the right e-cycling person to help, the vendor to help you is important. You can get certificates of destruction to make sure that there is no data remnants. You know, you could certainly, you know, Office Space iconically destroyed a copier in the parking lot. Certainly attempts like that or big giant magnets can destroy hard drives. But if you're going to have your equipment picked up, having your vendor provide a certificate of destruction is something that you can keep in a portfolio and present if you're ever audited or if there's ever any questions about what has happened to the data there. So just really, we always encourage that in your hardware refresh lifecycle management process that you have a clear guideline on what your expectations are for disposing of equipment, how you're going to handle that, and then how you're going to show proof that those things have actually been disposed of properly.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good, important, I feel like, security note to talk about, like with all of the people who are working from home right now and maybe working from home long term and maybe using personal devices. That's not something you can do with a personal device in the same way that you can do with managed hardware. With that, we are actually at the end of time for today. So 2 things. Thank you all for joining. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much, Stephen, for spending your time with us and chatting with us about Lenovo and all the amazing things that are happening at Lenovo and options that you have. You did great, of course, as we expected.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me be a part of your day, and everyone that joined, thanks for giving me an hour of your life. Hopefully it was beneficial, but again, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks, Marissa, so much for bringing your insight as well. And again, a huge shout out to our friends at the Durham Chamber of Commerce for making this available to all of our chamber members. We have one more event coming up in the series, and that is next Thursday. And it's the last episode of the remote office series, which is sad, but also exciting. We're going to hear from Clay Harris, who is our COO and president, about lessons learned through all of this and important things to remember. He's going to kind of recap a lot of the things that we talked about, and then he's going to bring his perspective on being a small business owner and looking again at another big change of, you know, maybe working from home permanently and all these things that we're seeing and processing all the time. So you'll hear some really good insight from him. And then we are working on a new series with a whole new set of conversations and topics. So you are going to get a link via email from me tomorrow with the recording of this webinar. And there will also be a link to a survey in that email, a form that you can fill out with requests for things that you want to hear about in the next series. So if it's more trainings, end user appropriate trainings or more things on hardware, you can tell us whatever it is that you want to hear about, and we'll think about it and work that into our next series. So with that, I hope to see you all next week, and I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll chat soon. Bye.